1 week after Ironman Texas, figured I'd shoot this video, kind of tell the story, what happened, training up to the race, and what looking forward is going to look like. I did unfortunately wreck on the Hardy Toll Road 43 miles in on the bike and was knocked unconscious, broke my clavicle, and was not able to continue the race. So definitely not the result I was hoping for. It was me and six others that were transported to the hospital by ambulance from this race. So really high abnormal numbers for an Ironman. That's not typically how it goes. You almost always apparently have bike crashes, but typically they're small and usually racer caused, where someone will run into someone else at the aid station. They're low impact collisions. But this one, there was a gap about 10 feet wide or 10 feet long, maybe 10 yards, and in the road right in the lane where we were biking. And it's about that big. And as I went into it, or as I was coming back with the tailwind, all I remember is going really fast, having so much fun. And then I looked down, and I was looking ahead, but I looked down, and then my wheel was in this gap, and it was over, and blacked out for a bit. And then I was on the ground moaning and groaning for a little bit. I remember that. And then the next thing I remember, I was on the side. But the race itself, man, I had so much fun up until that point. We got to the swim start around 6 o'clock, and everyone was so nervous, and I was feeling so good. I was so excited for this race. I had trained so long, and I just felt really prepared. It was a no wetsuit swim, so my swim time I had thought would be around an hour and 10 minutes. And with the wetsuit, I thought I could probably get 105 maybe, which would be pretty fast. But I got in there and just couldn't really catch a groove on my swim, and I wasn't feeling fast, and people kept tackling me in the water. And eventually, I just decided I'm just gonna swim. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about trying to go fast. I'm just gonna get to the end. And so I finished in like 122, which is not really time to be proud of if you're in the triathlon game. Definitely impressive to someone that's never swam that distance before, but pretty slow in Ironman speed terms for athlete my age. But I was fine with it. I got out of the water. I was just so happy. Carly, my wife, and her dad were there at the finish for the swim, and it was just so fun to see them. I saw them in the canal swimming. So the Houston race goes up and down this lake, and then you go into a canal for about 1,000 yards. And I saw him near the end of the canal, and I just stopped swimming and went to my back, and I was just waving and talking to him for a quick second. Like, no, keep going, keep going. But man, when you see someone while you're racing, that is just a wild rush of just incredibly happy feelings. And already you're just riding so high because you're just feeling so good. Like your body is ready for this 13, potentially hour athletic event. And you're an hour or two in, and so you're fresh. You're still feeling good if you trained right. So get to the bike transition. Had such a slow transition. Took me like 11 and a half minutes to get all my clothes for the bike on, get my candy in my pack, get some glide stuff on me so I wasn't chafing, and my bike shorts. And putting bike shorts on while you're wet from the swim is quite difficult. And you're in this tent with 100 other people doing the same thing. So it's no big deal. The volunteers were so amazing. The staff was so amazing. Everyone was so supportive and fun and nice, and it was just an incredible atmosphere. And jumped on the bike and start pumping, and I was feeling fast. Like I was picking up almost every single rider. Very few people were passing me. And I think it's because I came out of the water pretty late. At that point, it had been about an hour and a half after my transition, and I wasn't wearing a tri-suit. So if you're wearing a tri-suit, you can basically just transition in 1 to 3 minutes because you wear the same exact thing in the swim, bike, and run. But I was changing outfits each stage. So it'd been about an hour and a half, which is a pretty long period of time to start the bike. And I was just passing everybody. And so you pass on the left. and that ended up being foreshadowing my demise. And so we did this loop, and all these roads are closed down and all the cars are stopped, and there's so many people stopping cars, and I was thanking every single one of them. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, sir, thank you, sir. And every single street that was closed, every single parking lot that was closed, gotta thank you. I was just feeling so good, so happy. And we get to the Hardy Toll Road, and it's a 20-mile up and back twice. And going up, it's infamous for being incredibly windy. And so I was kind of locked in for a pretty painful 20 miles. And so 20 miles is about an hour if you're going 20 miles an hour, which is about my average speed for a non-windy section. And I was just feeling so strong. You want to keep your heart rate in zone 2, so I was targeting around 142 heart rate, and then if it got up to 150, I was kind of okay with it, but you don't really want to go over 150. You got to leave more gas in the tank. If you go over 150, you start to sap much more glucose from your body, and if you use all of that, you bonk, and then you can't go anymore. It might not be that simple, but that's essentially what happens. So you want to keep your heart rate fairly low on the bike in that zone 2, 120 to 150 range. And I was going really fast. I was going way faster than I expected to be going at that heart rate. And so again, I'm just passing everybody. And we hit the aid stations, and it's so funny. They're holding out all the bottles and gels, and you take it while you're going, 10, 15 miles an hour. You want to slow down a little bit, but you don't want to go to a stop. And so you try to grab the bottle from the volunteer, and it's really hard to grab a bottle while you're going pretty fast on a bike. And so the first one I grab, I dropped. And so it's just something that happens. They just expect it. And the next one I got, I did grab, and then I try to chug as much as I can before you get to the trash area. And then you have to discard it. Otherwise, you keep it on your bike. If you discard it outside of that trash area, you get penalized. And so you don't want to do that. And so I don't have any bottle holders on my bike because it's this crazy tri bike. And I had water on my bike. So I was just taking as much salt as possible. And then I grabbed goos. And again, I'm just feeling so strong. And I hit the turnaround at mile like 33. And you should be feeling strong at that point. There really isn't a reason for you to be gassed yet. And so at the turnaround, you start in the tailwind. And so immediately I was going like 25 miles an hour. And when you start to go that fast, it feels kind of like snowboarding or skiing through powder, or wakeboarding on glass. It feels so good to be going that fast on those wheels that I had. And it was just so fun. And I'm passing so many people on the left, and you hit this downhill. I think I hit about 32 miles an hour, which is like, it's not ridiculously fast, but it feels very fast on a bike. If you have a very steep downhill, you can go 45, 50 miles an hour, but that's a scary speed. So going like 25, 30 miles an hour, and I hit this, I'm passing everyone on the left, and there's 3 lanes, and we're on the right side coming back, and they're on the other side going this way. And someone yells at me, and they're like, "Wow, you're cooking." And it's like, let's go. I was just feeling so good. Again, like this whole race, I'm just passing everybody aside from the professionals. So the LeBron James of triathlon was in this race, and he flew by me so fast. It was like I wasn't even biking. It was so incredible how fast they are. And so I'm passing everybody, and I'm kind of on the edge of the lane. And that's when it just lights out. It happened so fast. My tire sinks in, and my race is over. And apparently a ton of people had crashed there, and 6 were taken by the ambulance. I don't know if all the ambulance rides were from that one location. There was also a cement truck that spilled over in that same area, and not that same area, in that bike course. And nobody was hurt, but it did like, it just made for a wild day for the race director team, because they had their hands full. They don't want any ambulance transports. They definitely don't want any cement trucks rolling over into the bike course. And so they had their hands full. But I was in the middle of the Hardy Toll Road for an unknown amount of time. 2 bikers stopped, and I remember hearing somebody talking to me when I was on the ground, and I was trying to tell them to go finish their race. Like, don't stop. Someone will come get me. And they're like, dude, I can't leave you in the middle of the highway. And I'm glad they didn't, because I was not getting up anytime soon. I don't know what state I was in. I would love to see video of it, but I was cooked. Like, I couldn't feel anything. I wasn't able to see really, and I was in and out of consciousness for a decent amount of time. And then I guess they took me to the side of the road. Somehow they helped me to the side of the road. And then 2 or 3 Good Samaritans, spectators from about 300 yards down, were on an overpass, and bikers were yelling at them, be like, there's a wreck, there's a wreck, they need help. And so they came down and started helping and talking to me and calling 911. And they actually reached out to us and gave us a little bit of a story. They were trying to cheer their wife up for when she was racing, and yeah, the athlete started saying there had been an accident a quarter mile before the point that they had been at, and they found me not alone. Another race participant was there. They didn't have any cell phones, the racers, and so that racer was very, very kind. He stopped his own race to help me, and definitely a hero. And I don't know who that is, and if I ever find him, I owe my deepest gratitude to him, and I'm incredibly thankful. And I don't think that's really a surprise in the triathlon world. I think that's kind of the type of person that does these things, and so it was much appreciated. But he definitely went above and beyond, because not everybody stopped, and I didn't expect anybody to stop. You know, it's a race that you train thousands of hours for. You're not trying to be a paramedic. You're trying to race. And so they called 911 and the spectators, and they weren't really able to describe where we were. We were on the Hardy, but there was no landmarks or signs. And so the 911 dispatcher couldn't figure out where they were. And so 20 minutes passed, no signs of help, no event support vehicles passed. The motorcycles from the pros passed, but they didn't stop to help. And then they asked me if I would like to make a call. And I was repeating the same things over and over, but they said I looked good. And so we took some selfies, they took some pictures. They noticed my collarbone was definitely not okay, and help was still not arriving. So half a mile north, there's a police vehicle blocking one of the entrance to the toll road. So they walked up there and asked for help, or one of them did. And the police officer knew about the accident, but hadn't done anything. And so he called his supervisor and told the bystander to wait with me while he figured out what would happen. And at this point, I had called my wife, and she was talking to me for like 40 minutes. Her mom had called 911 as well, and we shared our coordinates with with my wife over WhatsApp. And why you can't share your coordinates with the 911 dispatcher is shocking to me, but we were able to share them with my wife, and then her mom called 911 and told them where I was. The constable or the sheriff helped me out and slinged me up, and I sat in the back of his air-conditioned car for a little while, and I think it was about 2 hours until the ambulance finally got there. And I got in, and I was still repeating things in the ambulance, and I started to recognize that. And I was in the emergency room for a while, x-rays, broken clavicle. They did a bunch of CT scans, and just not the way I had hoped my race day would go. My face is obviously kind of wrecked. My legs and my arms were all wrecked. And I was hoping for a Ironman medal. So very discouraging, very sad, but it's not all about the destination. It's about the journey. And I had so much fun training for this. But if you're doing the Ironman Texas race in the future and you're watching all these prep videos, I hope you make it to mine, because no one talked about those gaps. And I looked online, and there's a lot of online comments about them. If you search it, you search Gap Hardy Toll Road Ironman, and somebody crashed in 2019, somebody crashed in 2022, somebody crashed in 2024. And the race director said that gap is new, but he didn't really know about it either. So I don't know how that would be possible. And I'm pretty upset at Ironman for allowing that. They had the road fully closed for 8 hours. Someone could have driven that road, and they would have saw that crack, and they would have known to mark that off. It was the only one in that whole road, because I drove it again afterwards. And that 10-yard stretch was the only crack that definitely would have been noticeable to take people out, and it did. And any biker that saw that would know that. So you just needed one person to go over the bike course, and they would have seen exactly what would take us out in the future, and they would block it off. And roads have blemishes, roads are not perfect, but this thing was a booby trap. Like there was no way, and it was on the tailwind side of things, so you're going so fast. There's just, you can be a very experienced rider and still hit that, in my opinion, and especially because it was on the left side, and so you're passing on the left. And luckily, none of the pros crashed because they were probably going 40 miles an hour on that stretch, and they all have to pass on the left too because they're racing people like me. So I'm not done. I have a surgery on Monday, and I'm going to repair my collarbone, and my right collarbone is broken, so working is nearly impossible. And it's just unfortunate. But I'll be back. I'm definitely going to be an Ironman before I die. You know, I'm gonna do it or I die. You know, I have to get there. It was so much fun, and I just can't imagine quitting at this point. You know, there's just no way. So I'll be out there. Hopefully, the story was worth listening to. I know I'm probably not the fastest storyteller, but figured some people would want to hear the recap, and I've told this story quite a few times already, so just put it out there. Ironman Texas in the book, not the result we were looking for, but we're going to be okay. We're alive. There was one athlete that got out of the hospital like 6 days later, so definitely could have been worse. And my helmet was completely shattered, so I could have been in much worse shape as well, and my teeth could have been gone, my nose could be scraped off, and it's just this little cheek injury on my face and my eyebrow. But this video is brought to you by Checo's Taco Shop, Checo's in Scottsdale, and Farmshare. If you're looking to buy meat from directly from the farmer, go to farmshare.co. Two of my buddies' companies. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.